Welcome to the Seattle Investors Club podcast with Julie Clark and Joe Bauer, where we share the nuts and bolts of real estate investing from our 20-plus years in the industry. Sit back, relax, listen, and immediately take action. Are you ready? Here we go.
Welcome to the Nuts and Bolts of Real Estate Investing podcast. My name is Joe Bauer, and I'm here with my co-host, Julie Clark. Julie, how you doing today?
I am good, Joe. Getting ready. I'm planning a big old party for this weekend. So as soon as we jump off that, I'm actually going to go buy a bunch of fresh flowers for my house and some extra jugs of booze and all kinds of stuff. My kids go to a private school that has auctions, and therefore every year I seem to be getting hit up with hosting a big, huge auction party. So that's what I'm doing this weekend. Looking forward to that. Where are you at?
Oh, man, I'm in Bangor, Maine right now. It's freezing cold.
Wow, you made it to Maine.
Yeah, all the way to Maine.
Is that your furthest? I guess that would be northeast, right? Is that the furthest point that you're going? I guess there's nowhere else to go, right?
We're headed out to the tip, or like the northeast tip in a few hours, which would be Acadia National Park. And
is it different, or does it look like, the rest of the United States? Is there something special about Maine that we don't know because it's over up there, way far up there?
It reminds me a lot of the Northwest, actually. It's just not quite as big a mountains and colder. Definitely colder.
Definitely colder.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. So you guys camping in the van in the national park, or how's that going to work?
Yep. Camp in the van. We've tested out the heater. It works. That's a big positive.
That's positive.
But yeah, we're camping out in the van. We actually have a visitor here from Seattle this weekend that wanted to come and check out Acadia. So we're rolling 3 deep in the van this weekend.
Oh man, good thing you put those seatbelts in, huh?
Heck yeah.
Hey, what is Acadia National Park? Is there some special, like you go to Yellowstone, you're going to go see the whatever, Fountain of Youth or whatever that is. You go to Acadia National Park, what are you seeing there?
Well, it's known for the changing of the leaves. So the reason that we're here right now is the average leaf changing time of year actually hit, I think, 3 days ago. So This was the best time that we could get here, and it's the only place on our whole trip that we actually had a camping reservation.
Oh.
Yeah, because it's hard to get.
Wow.
It's just it's really hard to get reservations, apparently. So
super cool. Well, we can't wait to see the photos. I think you guys all know you can jump on the Fantastic Life on any of your social media channels and live vicariously like the rest of us, watching Joe hop around the U.S. in his cool van at all these national parks. Who knew there were so many national parks, right?
60 of them. It's crazy.
60. You're not hitting all 60, are you?
Oh, yeah. 60.
Oh my God. I don't think we're ever going to come back. How many have you hit so far?
We're getting close to 20.
Oh, my gosh. 20? And how long has it been? 6-7 months? Or
5 months as of like 3 days ago, I think.
5 months. Right on.
Yep.
Well, awesome. Yep. I'm always trying to find a great transition to welcome our podcast guest in today. And I'm trying to think leaves and Maine. And the only thing I can think of is we have with us today, guys, is Josh Mente from Gemini Home Solutions. And I'm a Gemini. So
me too.
That's all I got today, right? What's that? Split personality? You guys know that who know me well can probably say that's accurately true. But Josh, what's up? Welcome on to the podcast.
How are you? Thanks for having me. And in full disclosure, I am not a Gemini. My ex-business partner is, though, however. So it's just easier to keep the name than it is to change it. So
there you go. Well, we'll go with that. So right. Josh is joining us today from, is it actually Baltimore, or is it a different town in the Maryland area?
No, we reside in Baltimore Metro. We're just over the city-county line in a suburb just north called Towson, but for all intents and purposes, it's Baltimore.
Awesome. I have never myself been to Maryland. So next time I'm out there, maybe I'll hit you up. But
please do, and make sure you bring your jugs of booze and all your fresh flowers, and we'll have a good time.
Hey, that won't be a problem. Not at all. Not at all. So Joe, I'm going to let you kick us off today, since we're all out in the woods and planning parties and, all that stuff. Let's get on with it and hear from Josh.
Heck yeah, Josh. So the first question that we always have is just about getting to know you a little bit more. A lot of times it's the way that people were brought up that really determines how they've, made their changes and success in their life. So we'd love to hear, how did you grow up? Where did you grow up? What did you do, through school, through work to get to where you are right now?
Gosh, that's a fairly long story at 44 years old, I guess, right? But 60-second elevator speech. I was born in the Washington, D.C. area, which basically Baltimore and Washington are kind of like one metropolis. They're kind of growing together, but completely different worlds. So I went to school, public school down that way. I had a dad who was an entrepreneur, more of the work harder, not smarter, not in a bad way, but that's just kind of the way it was, working 18 hours a day. So work ethic was instilled in me from an early age. Anything you want, you can get. You just got to go work for it, which was awesome. And then, my mom on the other side was, to be kind to people. Everybody's your friend. Take people into your house, nurture, all that kind of stuff. So I think I got a good mix from the two of them. I wasn't the best student in school. I was the guy that every teacher said, if you only applied yourself, And then, truth be told, I think I passed and I got my degree in high school because I just showed up. I would just listen and do what I need to do. Wouldn't do my homework, but somehow managed to do it. In fact, I came across a little piece of paper not that long ago where I had 273 students in my my graduating class, and I believe I was 261 out of 273. So fast forward, I go to visit my friend at college up in actually New Hampshire at a place called Franklin Pierce, and realized then that I had a love for beer and women and all kinds of fun stuff that were going on in college campuses. And I decided to apply myself. So I came back, enrolled in community college, worked 40 hours a week, bartending and cooking and, restaurant jack of all kind of thing. And, kind of worked my way through community college, got my associate's degree. Took me 3 years in school, 4 years out of high school. Then had saved enough money that I was able to go to a 4-year university, got my bachelor's there, all the while doing the same thing, showing up to class every day, but still not the best student, but smart enough to make my way through. And I was making dean's list, then graduated like a 3.4, 3.5 GPA, just kind of by applying myself. So turns out the teachers were right in some respects. And from there, I got out of school, and it was an interesting landscape in the late 90s, early 2000s. My first job offer in my career, which was mass communications, advertising, public relations being the specific. And they were offering me somewhere around, I think it was like $17,500 a year plus, oh, by the way, pay for your parking in downtown Baltimore, and you're responsible for your own health insurance. So I decided that wasn't going to work, and had somebody I met along the way who got me a job interview at a local bank to be a loan officer working on files that had been turned down. So just trying to resurrect it. And very shortly, they realized that I was dedicated and applied and worked hard, and kind of worked my way up through that. Kind of speed up a little bit. Went to a national subprime company as an outside wholesale rep from 2001 to 2006. Decided to leave the business in 2006 before it imploded. So when I was in full swing, I think March of 2006, I had left. All the while from 2001, I bought my first house. Luckily, there was a guy at the bank who kind of took me under his wing. He worked in the REO department, and he said, look, why bother paying retail? Here's how you go out and fix up a house by a HUD foreclosure. I did that. That was great. Did it again. Then I bought 3 in a row. It just kind of took off as a side hustle.
Were you house hacking or were you flipping?
Flipping.
Cool.
Yeah. Buying, fixing, and selling. There might have been a rental in there here or two, but it was all based on how do I generate money to buy my wife's wedding ring, or, nest egg for the future, invest, that kind of stuff. So did that. And then in 2006, I decided to flipped full time and switched over as the general contractor, working on 4, 5, 6 houses at a time. Into 2007, things weren't looking so good. By the end of 7 into 8, I decided to shut it down, which actually in hindsight was probably the perfect time to do that. Liquidated all of my houses except one, which I actually, it's funny, I actually put on the market last week. So here we are 12 years later, and I finally ridding myself of the last mistake, we'll call it, from that time frame. So I'm doing that full time, shut it down just because the market was heading, we're having 5% corrections a quarter, and you just can't really bank on what it was going to sell for if you could sell it when it was all said and done. So then a manager of mine in the mortgage business had switched over to work and run an REO department for a subprime company called Accredited Home Lenders. He called me. You're an investor. I like you. I know you. I trust you. Agents in Baltimore are really bad. I want you to get your license. I'll give you 2 to 4 listings a month. I said, let me see. I'm actually unemployed, trying to liquidate houses that I'm losing money on. Sure. Okay, great. So July 22nd, 2008, I got my real estate license and just worked hard with tremendous help and support from my wife, working on some of the back end parts of the business. Ramped that up, started dealing, selling mass volumes of REO properties. All the while, in 2009, I decided to buy a house again, test the market. And by 2010, I'm realizing that it's actually a great time to be doing this because I could really pick the properties I want, set the price at whatever the market rate was, over improve it, and sell it at or just below. And I was listing and getting rid of everything in 2-3 weeks. So while the market was terrible, I was creating a good product and being able to buy it well enough, which is really my core belief. If you have to buy the properties well, that's where you make your money, not when you sell it. So
were they letting you buy the REO properties? Like, could you buy those if they were on your account?
No, that's a big no. So to this day, I've sold thousands of REOs and I've never bought one of them. But the interesting
What
happens,
if your partner had it listed or somebody else in your? I mean, is it when you can't do it if your name's on the listing, right? Or you worked for the company that you guys just had you and your partner were just brokers who did a bunch of REO listings, right? It wasn't.
Yeah. So it kind of works like every bank is different, right? So as an example, Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae, if you list their properties, you can't buy any of them, even if you don't have the listing itself.
Okay.
Or at least that's the way it used to be. But to use that as an example, so what happens though is that REO agents, at least at this time period, we're all commiserating together. We're all dealing with the same problems, issues, building systems, breaking them, influx of inventory, crazy agents on the other side of the fence. But you have this connectivity with the other agents. So I'll call it like a fraternity. So I would just turn to the other REO brokers and say, hey, I'm looking to buy a couple properties. What do you got? And then I would just kind of, here, go look at this one. It's going on the market tomorrow. This one's been on, we're about to price reduce it, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And really kind of work through that. So it was an interesting time because,
Wait, let me clarify because I got confused for a second.
Okay.
So you said that if you are doing REO business at all, right? If you're listing any REO business, which you were, right?
That's correct. Yes.
That then you cannot buy any REO property because, right?
No, I can buy other people's REOs. So like if someone else had it listed.
Oh,
right,
there you go. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I couldn't buy any of my own that I had.
Wonderful networking that you have there.
Yeah. So I would just turn the spigot on and be like, hey, I need to buy 2. I just sold 2. That week or within 2 weeks, I'd have 2 under contract and I would shut off the spigot, not look for it and go back to work.
Right.
So, I'm doing 1 to 2 dozen a year, basically, either through partnerships or actually doing them myself or some mix of all that. You kind of put deals together. But I had involvement in, somewhere between 12 to 2 dozen of them, sometimes a little bit more, depending on the year from about 2010, even up till today. But through the core of that rebounding market, it was different. It was just different times, at least here in Baltimore. It was easier to buy, in theory, harder to sell, but as long as you bought it right, it didn't really matter.
What was the price point about in Baltimore area? Out here in the Pacific Northwest, our price points are quite a bit higher probably, but what are you at over there?
So where I focus my time, and there's different price points and different buckets, just like many areas. But my core focus is that FHA buyer. So it's, let's call it 150,000 to 400,000. That's really where I do the core of my flipping. But the average house price was in the twos at that point. It's now crept, I think, into the threes. So it's gone up about 25% or so. But Baltimore's a unique market because of its age and being a Rust Belt city. It's not really a Rust Belt city, but we'll just kind of call it one, where it was blue collar and is trying to transform itself into something else. There are pockets, which if anybody's watched The Wire knows and understands that there are some areas of the city that, could use a little bit more help than others. So, still to this day, there's homes that you can buy for $5,000, row homes, that are shells and boarded up and, in war zones and all that kind of stuff. Steer away from that. That does also drag the average down a bit. When you figure a $5,000 home and $1 million home, the average is 500,000, but, everything in between. That's why we're really in that high twos at this point, at least as far as the metropolis goes. So.
Excellent.
It's interesting. It's a great city to invest in because the housing stock had been neglected for so long, and it's an older set of housing stock. A lot of the city has been built from, say, 1900 to 1950. So there's a lot of opportunity to get the ugly duckling and actually put and reinvest in, sweat equity. People call it different things, but really add value. That's the way I look at it.
Right.
But
did you find over the last few years that you were having a inventory issue on finding them, or maybe not because of what you just described? Maybe there's just plentiful amounts of that stuff, so you didn't run into the same problem we've had out here, which is, complete lack of inventory of anything to even buy.
It's a great question. There was a dynamic shift around, say, 2014. I think it has to do with a lot of things. I think that there's a lot of inexperienced investors coming into the marketplace that are paying numbers that don't necessarily make sense. I think that through the proliferation of HGTV and Flip This House, where they say you bought it for 100, you put 100 in, you sold it for 300, you make 100,000. When actually, depending on the deal structure, you probably make closer to 50. Transfer taxes in and out, the whole kind of those 9 yards. So I think it's kind of glamorized what it is and flooded the market with investors, which is good in some respects, but makes it difficult in others. So in there, what I realized is that the MLS was drying up in the sense of good deals being able to be had. So at that point, I decided to launch into direct mail marketing and some online stuff in order to create one-off situations where I could get in front of somebody, talk to them, solve their problems, help, win-win situations, between buyer and seller, but do it instead of dealing with 100 people making an offer. It's me and maybe a couple others also done direct mail and being able to sit in their living rooms and talk to them. So it was a good transition. I can't even
How's the direct mail competition out there now? Because that is, that's exactly what we do. That's the majority of our deals, whether they be even listings or wholesale deals. If we can't buy them, we can convert them to a listing or, buy, hold, or whatever, the same things you're talking about. So where am I going with this? I lost my train of thought there for a second.
So you're asking me how the competition is in the direct mail market?
Well, on the direct mail. Because when you started off, there probably wasn't that many people doing it, but now are you feeling there's a flood of, right out here, we go to houses out here and there'll be 20 postcards, in a house.
Yeah. And I think that's the same everywhere, as the companies and the coaching companies have, come into not existence, but, multiplied. There's a lot of them. There's always something on the radio, fan mail coming through, and all that kind of stuff. I think that a lot of people have adopted some of those principles as the core focus, which is a great thing. So there is competition, but it's still not quite to the level that it is on the MLS or other manners of trying to source deals. I think at the same time, you do have competition, but there's always competition, right? So I think that what happens is you have to be in tune with your marketing pieces, who they're going to, how they're receiving them, and you have to be consistent with it. It's literally every month. Pepper them.
Do you feel that it's more about the consistency of of getting the piece to them than what the message is. I mean, let's say, we're all going to have somewhat of a similar message, maybe not everybody, because obviously I don't know why anybody who's in the real estate business, even if you're just wholesaling, that you don't have a real estate license. There's a lot of people out there that are, in my opinion, misinformed about the value of having a real estate license, even if you're just wholesaling. To me, it's absolutely insane, considering you're spending marketing dollars. You want to be able to convert every lead, no matter, what it is, or, how it converts into what. That's what, do you feel we out here, I can tell you that our success is in the consistency. People, I say, why'd you call us? And they say, well, you're the one that contacted me the most. You were consistent. Even over like a year, 2 years, you were consistent. So that's why I called you, and that's why I'm going with you. Because I know once we get there, we have the chops to provide all the options.
Yep.
It's just a matter of I love hearing that. Well, we're called you and we're going with you. We're not calling all these postcards, but we're calling the people, and principally you, because you contact us the most and the most consistently, whether that be, follow up on the phone, emails, texts, all that, right?
Yeah, it is. We live in a society where you pick up your iPhone, you get what you want. You have a car sitting out front, you have something delivered in 5 minutes from Amazon, whatever. So people take the same approach to the slow play. Direct mail, I don't know in 20 years will work. What I do believe right now is that when you target people 40 years old or greater, they're still used to receiving that message. It's the same people. If I was going to target them, I would launch TV advertising for specifically 11:30 in the morning when Wheel of Fortune's on, or whatever that might be. Because these are the people that are used to receiving messages this way, right? So the younger generations aren't. They might not even own the properties that we would want to buy anyway. But getting beyond that, know who your target is and how to reach them, right? So what happens with direct mail, it's a static piece that gets there, right? And it's in front of one person, maybe two, maybe the mail lady sees it as well. Different than digital marketing where you can blast it out and somebody in Hong Kong can see it the same way that somebody can, that just happens to be, and you catch them at the right time, you just get more eyeballs on it. So this piece of direct mail sits there. Some of them have, I've seen our pink pieces of mail from January, right? Our, postcards, and this is the one I got, right? So they sit on it, right? So people sit on it for a while and they'll start to connect the dots. But above and beyond that, I think there's two things that differentiate us from other people. One is we have if you go on, we have a website, we have a legitimacy that we're not, working out of the back of our pickup truck. So people will go check to see
your credibility. You have credibility, right?
Not a fly by night and all that kind of stuff. And then I think secondly, and the most important is our message is about finding a solution for them, right? I think a lot of people in general, come from a sales approach of how do I take something, right? Or how do I talk somebody into doing something? Our approach is completely different. It's open-ended questions. It's asking them. It's getting to know them. It's building trust with them. It's, showing them what our value is, but that comes over time. So what happens in the end, we don't try and force round pegs into square holes. So we take basically that piece of direct mail and we can drop it in one of 3 buckets, really 4 buckets. We can buy it for a rental. We can buy it to fix and add value to and sell off to someone else. We can list the property and sell it for them. And we also have a property management company. So in that conversation, if somebody says, I'm so tired of dealing with tenants. I feel your pain. I understand that. We have plenty of rentals and we feel the same pain. But tell me a little bit more about that. So what is it that bugs you about that? And in that, would you still want to hold on to your property if you didn't have to manage it? So you go through these series of questions. And from that, you determine that basically this person's best solution, when you put their interests first and before yours, I think you win and succeed more times than not.
I could not agree with you more, 100%. That when you're there, you're just there to really do and listen to what it is that bothers them, and then try and help them solve that. We have the exact same approach. And that is why I don't even worry about the competition. If there's 20 other postcards there, I know if I get there that I don't want to say I don't care what happens, but I am able to come from such a genuine place of wanting to help them that it just comes through, and I'm, able to offer them so many different options based on whatever their wants and needs are to give them those solutions that they're looking for. Really the only reason that they wouldn't work with you is if they either didn't like you, or I always find that it's hard to compete with like a friend or a family member. So we try, of course, to get that out of the way before we even get there, right?
Yep.
When you get objections, when you aren't able to help, or somebody doesn't choose to work with you, what do you feel the objection is on why that doesn't happen? Because I sense that while you're not a Gemini, right, which is the twin, you and I, listening to you, we're kind of like twins, Josh, you and me.
Twinsies, right?
We're twinsies.
We should buy some real estate together. Wonder
We
Twin
should.
Powers.
And I have twinsies. I have twin girls. So you're my missing twin maybe, but we have the same approach. We do things the same way. I'm curious to know, like, what are the objections? Because we all get rejected sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are your objections that you guys get? We can talk easily and tell people about, these are the things, how you need to approach it. But I'm curious what you think on why you might fail sometimes, because people love to hear that too.
So a couple things, so I think any sales process is basically you got to build rapport, gain trust, and demonstrate knowledge. If you can't get to a point that you can get through those three barriers, then I don't think you can reach somebody. So some people just aren't realistic. Some people don't know what they want and haven't discovered it yet. And sometimes there's somebody else out there that can pay more money than I can because of the way my construction, we hire GCs and, they're going to do it out of the back of their pickup. But you know what? A lot of times I think when we lose out on, at least on the buy and flip side, is we lose out to wholesalers. At least here in Baltimore, a lot of wholesalers just wrap stuff up, get under contract. If they can get it gone, great. And if they can't, they just back out. That's Baltimore. I don't know about as a whole in the country, but that is a prevalence here. So sometimes we lose out in that manner to basically some business practices that I don't agree with and that we don't do. So anything we put on our contract, we are going to buy. That's the sole intent of it.
Do you have any tactics that you use to try and offset that issue, such as, we could run into the same thing here, but we have some tools to separate the ladies from the little girls, I'll say, instead of the men from the boys, right? Mm-hmm. I'm flipping to us ladies right now, and that might be offering to release them some earnest money deposit after, an inspection. There's some broker, I guess as a broker, these things, there's some tactics to separate you that these wholesalers won't do. Right.
Yep.
And I, basically tell them, make sure that you look for these types of things in any contract that you're going to sign. Things I know they're not going to be able to offer. Right.
Yep.
Just kind of block that a little bit.
Yeah. I'll say this. There isn't a lot that we do other than we stay in touch. Because so part of it, if somebody's only focused on their bottom line, not a win-win situation, they're going to go for that, whatever gets them the greatest return, regardless, and have their blinders on over what that is. Now, what we try and do is have the rapport and trust with them that if it doesn't work out, we're here for you.
Right?
So, you know what? You can go on your way. I understand. We haven't gotten to the point where we coach them into things because I don't know who the person is on the other side, so I can't pass any judgment on and say that they are or they're not going to close. And I don't really stoop to those levels and do those kind of things, and just try and operate with integrity and just do what I do best. Laws of abundance, there's plenty of it out there. We just do our best to capture what we can get.
Well said.
There is a guy we met with today. He closes on Tuesday. We signed the contract 2 weeks ago. I was walking through with my assistant building the scope of work. And I, asked him a simple question. I said, why did you choose us? Because I didn't go on the appointment. He said, you know what? You said it earlier. And I said to him that we'll take good care of his parents' house because it's a estate sale. So we're going to keep it as a rental. So it's best suited for. And he goes, you know what? There was a lot of people that came in here that I felt were only trying to win for themselves, right? They didn't really care about the property. They didn't care about me or my situation. However, the person that was here representing your company took an interest in me, took an interest in the situation. I felt that, you guys would take good good care of my parents' house? And there's a lot of truth to that. We will, or at least to the best of our ability, So I think that if you just take the right approach and do unto others, treat them like you would your family, your parents. I always, in any sale, say, if I'm sitting on the other side, what I do, if we're building a house out for a rental, I'm not trying to put lipstick on it. I'm saying, if I'm sitting here, I'm a family, would I rent this house? Yes or no? What would my objections be? Whatever those are, I try and address them if possible. And if I can't address them, then I don't want the property. So I think when you put yourself into someone else's shoes, you're better equipped to solve their problems, create a solution, create a win-win. I mean, that's one of our 6 core values here at our business is, win-win, win-win or no sale. Now there's a book.
I'm with you. I'm going to switch gears on you now because I don't want to go too long here, but I do want to get into exactly how your business looks and your team and your, just lastly touching on though, what's your best source of lead generation? Is it the direct mail or is it referrals at this point because you've been around a while, or is it Facebook maybe, or what does that look like for you guys?
In our investing business, it is 75%, let's call it. About 3 out of every 4 deals either come from an online auction or direct mail.
Online auction meaning it's listed on an online auction?
Yeah. So like auction.com, Hudson and Marshall, all those kind of online sites.
Okay.
National online sites.
Okay. Excellent. And how about, do you use digital marketing at all for your residential brokerage business or?
Oh yeah. Yeah. A good bit of it. Absolutely. And some of it flows in through that and it ends up there. So they call it a list a house, and through our discovery process, because the core values are the same for both companies, do what's best for the consumer, not what's best for us. So they might call in to list their house and you discover that they, whatever, make up a scenario, they're losing their house in 7 days to foreclosure, whatever it is. It's kind of irrelevant, but they push it over to our department. We have conversations, and if listing is the best spot, then the agent that was representing it gets it back. If we buy it, they get a commission, so everybody wins. It's about creating opportunities for not one business, but basically 4 different silos that we run kind of simultaneously under the same roof.
Excellent. And I do want to jump all into that in a little bit more detail. One last question on the investment side. Do you do any creative real estate deals, seller financing, lease options, that kind of thing? You already said you don't do any wholesaling, which isn't necessarily creative, but do you do any type of, do you pursue deals based on seller financing, or do you, buy properties and then sell them on seller financing, any of that kind of stuff?
One of the questions we ask, we have like a 15 question script, for lack of a better word, we go through. One of them is trying to understand their position, which is, if the property is free and clear, why they're selling it. And if they are, are you worried about tax consequences and things like that? So yes, if there is ability for somebody to stay in the deal, I also explain to them, or we do, that, hey, we can skin the cat a different way. We're at 100,000 buy price. You're looking for 110. If you hold a note for this amount and we pay you 5, 6, 7, 10% interest, whatever it is, over a 4 to 6 month period before we dispose of the property, you're going to accrue interest on this, which will get you closer to that number. It's interest that we're going to pay to somebody anyway. So we can get you to your number, just got to go about a different way. Right. And then, we pair it with, our cash, where we pay for the renovations, and then, record note on title, so on and so forth. So yes, that'd probably be the one scenario that we work through where people have free and clear properties, and we can get creative with how they get paid back. Excellent.
What's your opinion? I don't know if it's touching you guys out there about the new, the iBuyer space. That's kind of a big topic out here, even though they're not really touching us out here because our costs our real estate's too expensive. But, Open Door, OfferPad, Zillow Instant Offer. Are you touched by any of that out there yet?
Not really. I mean, here's the thing. I think that we're at an interesting time where the industry is going to change over the next 20 years anyway. I don't know what that is or what it looks like. And I think there's a component to it, which is, how does someone with internet presence gain a marketplace or create a marketplace where they put buyer and seller together, right? So that is one way of doing it, and every company is doing a little bit differently. So Zillow will monetize it differently than, say, Open Door does, where, basically their model is, we're going to, I think if I understand it correctly, we're going to buy it at X price. And then basically they know through algorithms that they put this back into it, they can put it back here and make the arbitrage in between. I think there'll be different iterations of it, but what will happen at some point through technology and leveraging the human interaction out of it that is the middleman and gets in the way of the progress, that's really the disruption as I see it, that there'll be an online marketplace where people can, buy, sell property, connect to do it together. So you have a seller, you have a buyer who's looking there. It's kind of what's happening with Zillow's platform, having the hundreds of millions of users that go there and view properties. It's figuring out which works best for them, how they can get it, because they have the traffic. Now for Zillow, it's just about how to monetize it best.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these iBuyer groups they're not making their money actually on the real estate transaction itself. They're pushing it down a channel, a lane within the inner workings of that company, where it's going to be like something to do with mortgage lending and doing both sides of the deal. It's touching it every way through the process, not just this transaction that everybody sees is recorded and done up front. There's so many more pay points behind the scenes, which is, I think, I believe, a major part of what they're actually after, rather than the real estate, proceeds themselves, because the margins are getting really thin, right? So that will be interesting.
Like how do you make up for thin margins? So there's a compression in rates right now that's going on. And by that, I mean, if you look at real estate commissions, they're shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. Some of it rightfully so, and some of it clearing out inefficiencies in the market. But with that compression and the thinner margins, you have to find a way to do more with less. And technology is the answer to that. Getting some of the humans out of the way is the answer to how to do more with less. Now, what's interesting is that, in that compression of, as the pie shrinks, you have to find more ways to monetize it. It's similar to what we touched on earlier, is when a piece of direct mail comes in, which bucket does it fall in? It's not like, hey, I got my blinders on, I can only buy property. It's okay, that doesn't work. When you're a solution-based company, we have solutions for you. We have connections with auction companies if that's your path. We have, a real estate sales team. We sell 300 to 400 homes a year. We have an investor network that we can do, investor open houses. If you don't want to be a property manager anymore, you can drop it in that bucket. We can buy it, we can fix it, we can sell it, we can, rentals. But this one phone call, we have to figure out a way to monetize it and put it in one of those buckets. And that's really what you're kind of alluding to, that these online companies also have mortgage,
absolutely,
title, and everything else. So they say, okay, we'll connect you buyer and seller, but you have to use our title company and you have to use our mortgage company, right? Great. Yep. So we bundle the services and they all do it together. So they take a transaction, they make $400 or they lose $400 as a loss leader, bringing that in the door, but then they make $2,000 on the mortgage and $1,000 on title and so on and so forth,
exactly.
And home warranties and everything else. And as a whole, that's, how they make money. There's a company called Long & Foster, which was the largest privately held real estate company in the country. They just sold to Berkshire Hathaway. It was here in 7 states, the Mid-Atlantic region. And I worked for them when I first got my real estate license. And what I came to find out is they basically want to break even on the real estate. This isn't quote, this isn't direct from them. This is me putting it all together. And then make money off Prosperity Mortgage, make money off Sage Title, and all the auxiliary services, including their insurance.
I think that's the new real estate business model.
Yep.
That's it. I think that's the new model. And I think that you're going to see all kinds of all kinds of spin-offs from that type of model. That's my opinion, that model of, how many buckets can we get money in smaller chunks or whatever along the way, related to real estate somehow, brokerage, but then there's also going to be other things as well. I think that's what it's looking like. I find that interesting because I believe that Zillow is now, my thought, Zillow's out here in the Seattle area headquartered, is that they very well
Be
may
careful,
likely.
they may come down and get you.
Yeah, well, no, I've talked to them. Believe me, all the way up the chain. I've talked to the somebody very, very high up in the instant offers platform there. But I think that they're somehow partnering with Berkshire Hathaway, right? That's what I think is happening. So it's interesting that Berkshire Hathaway bought that group, because I think that to me just connecting the dots when I'm thinking about these things, that's interesting. That's interesting to me. But anyways, enough about all that, because it's going to happen regardless of, the two of us or the three of us here.
Hey guys, Joe here. I just want to take this super quick break from the action to let you know something that we have really cool to offer you guys. As you know, marketing is the lifeblood of our real estate business, and Julie and I spend a ton of money sending out postcards and letters to people all around the Seattle area. We've partnered up with YellowLetters.com to get you guys 10% off all of your marketing needs at Yellow Letters. All you have to do is go to YellowLetters.com, and when you check out, use the code Seattle Investors Club, and you'll get 10% off any of your marketing needs at YellowLetters.com. You can send postcards, letters, whatever it may be that YellowLetters.com has, so that you can keep your marketing engine running for a little less money. So go to YellowLetters.com, use the code Seattle Investors Club with no spaces, and get your marketing going today. All right, let's get back to the action.
So let's talk more about your particular business. How are you set up? We talked early on that we want to touch upon this idea of horizontal businesses. So maybe a question that leads into talking about that is, what part of the business do you focus on yourself and that you play an active role in? How's your team set up? And what kind of horizontal business model, if you could explain to everybody what that means and from your perspective and how you roll, let's touch on that.
Yeah. So horizontal meaning that they're on the same platform under the same parent company doing different things but are all interrelated. So it wouldn't be like I own a Chick-fil-A and I also own a real estate sales team. It's all in the same real estate space, but basically it's 4 different silos. So there's the investing business, which is buying rentals.
It's the buckets again, right?
Yeah. Yep. I call them silos, but buckets, it's all the same thing, right? So if we drop that into that bucket, then we have a real estate sales team, sell 300-400 homes a year. We have a property management company. So we manage our properties, and then we'll manage properties for others. And then we're actually right now working on potentially opening up a real estate brokerage. So those would be really our 4 silos. But each of them get fed the same way. It's all sales, marketing, and systems, right? No matter what business it is, it's all the same thing. So the interesting part is the lead generation can lead into all 4 of the silos or buckets. But also the economies of scale start to kick in when you're like, hey, I need a marketing person, right? Because I need leverage and I need to focus on a different piece of the business. Well, I don't have a house flipping person that I'm hiring a marketing person for. I'm hiring a director of marketing who is running all of our digital, all of our direct mail, all of our everything for all 4 of the businesses, right? And the same thing happens when we have an in-house bookkeeper, accountant,
Is that marketing person, unlike your agents, how is the pay structure set up for those kind of things in regards to agents versus like your marketing person? Obviously your bookkeeper, you pay a salary to. What about your marketing person? Are they paid just a salary or?
Well, yeah, this is actually our next hire in our growth, right? So right now I'm handling the marketing. So I only have, 25% effort focused in that or whatever, and seeing those type of results. What we realize is that we need somebody, and I can go through 27 points of what we need to do, but it's all about creating new business and staying in touch with the business that we have, or our database. So posting regularly on, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all that kind of stuff. So all the social platforms. Well, if we're doing it for one, we can do it for all 4. It all gets loaded into Hootsuite, if they need me to do photos or video or whatever, I can block a day. I can do that. It gets all done. Somebody mixes it up, throws it up in Hootsuite, and it starts rolling out over time, not just in one business, but not the other. So if you look at like our sales team, we're good at doing Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that for that. However, we haven't focused any time, effort, or energy into Gemini doing that, partly because our target audience is different, in what we're doing. However, let me
ask you why you're doing that. Do you, on your marketing dollars that you spend, do you spend more heavily on your brokerage business or on your Gemini Home Solutions, going after those? Well, you don't, because you're buying off auction and stuff like that. So
we spend, it's about $4,000 to $5,000 a month in direct mail. That's our ad spend in Gemini Home Solutions. Mm-hmm. Our sales team, which is more mature business, so been around longer with different sources doing different things, things are automated a bit differently and so forth, is about double to triple that. So
are you doing that through Zillow?
Yeah, lots of things, but Zillow is definitely, from a buyer lead perspective and even a seller lead perspective, Zillow is for now. I believe that, I don't want to get off on a tangent. Zillow is
we don't need to get on that tangent, because I could go down a rabbit hole with you there, but I hear what you're saying. Okay.
But how we're spending our money, where we're spending it, so for us to do direct mail and Gemini, we have somebody that does that. It's like, great. But we have, guess what, a business over here that we can do, just sold cards for Circle Prospect around it, whatever. And it's the same thing. It's the same mail fulfillment center. It's the same thing, people doing the same thing in both businesses. And the same thing would apply in our property management company. If we wanted to be heavily invested in the neighborhood we're moving to, which is in the center of Baltimore, great. Why not have a presence and manage rentals there? So we just, build the same list through ListSource and just mail them a different, direct mail piece saying, are you tired of being a landlord? We're here to help you. We're on the avenue right at the church. Come down and see us, And now we have a director who's managing all of that stuff. And that's their sole focus, which generates leads, generates business, staying in touch with our database in all the different businesses. And then, the other piece that we're
How does that person get paid?
That would be a salary.
Okay.
And there's probably some upside to them, with growth of business and things like that. Some type of, if we can quantify an increase in, across the board, having metrics in place with our KPIs, showing like what this person has led to the growth in, whether it's probably something where they would get bonuses based off of how many likes we have on Facebook, how many, followers on Instagram, how much more direct mail, we're getting, and measuring that, and you just kind of go down. So they would be able to get some upside if they were truly a difference maker, not just a processor.
And how do you pay the people on your team do they take draws, or are they just on splits, or what?
Salespeople?
Yep.
They're commission based.
Yep. Okay.
We want to find hunters, not farmers.
Gotcha.
Farmers worry about the draw. Hunters worry about the commission.
I like that. I'm gonna use that.
Good. My favorite thing to do is R&D, rip off and duplicate, right? So,
I love that. Yeah. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, right. So there's no such thing as an original idea. It's just a repurposed one, right? So you hear what somebody else is doing, you figure it out. You may have something that you've done on your own that's groundbreaking, but chances are, we're all.
And usually that comes from the experience you're having in the house or on your appointments, that you get some intel on some message that's working while you're there that you want to add to, I don't think that that's how I feel it. The message changes for me is that I'm hearing a common theme, maybe from the sellers that I'm talking to or the buyers or whatever, that gives me sort of a moment. I actually came across I'll call it a hook, a new message that I'm going to test.
So you're willing to share?
I will share it with you, but I won't share it with the world right now. I haven't tested it yet, so I'm going to hold it for myself. But I definitely, if it does, I will be happy to share that with you and everybody else.
Awesome.
Really it has to do with property taxes. I'll just say that.
Cool.
So you're over at Keller Williams?
I am. Yes, our sales team is at Keller Williams.
Have you always been at Keller Williams, or did you move to Keller Williams for a certain reason?
Yeah, I was with Long and Foster, like I was saying earlier. There for 2.5 years ish, something like that. And I've been at Keller for about 7.5 to 8 years. And I moved over in order to leverage a relationship with Fannie Mae, actually.
Excellent.
So I had to be at Keller in order to do it, so on and so forth. When I was heavily into listing REO properties. And I've been here ever since. The first couple of years I was at Keller, I kind of just went to my office and did my thing and really wasn't thinking about it other than just trying to keep up with my day-to-day and manage the 2 or 3 people that work for me and just keep the machine running, Then I woke up one day and decided that this wasn't a life worth living. So I had to grow a team or get out of the business. And through that path, I was able to connect with some people at Keller Williams and go to family reunion and some of these other things. And the one thing with me is like when I get my horns locked onto something, just get out of the way. Like I'm going to do it, and that was really where I was at. It was the right spark at the right time. It re-energized me about real estate and sales specifically. And I just locked on and just honed in, learned, Mastermind grew, implemented.
Are there a lot of investors in your office? Or do you find like that are they supportive? We always, of your personal investment business, some brokers will say that, we got you, you get your E&O through, and for everybody that's listening, we're talking about errors and omissions insurance, which is what all real estate agents have for their business. That usually is coming through their brokerage as part of their splits or fees they pay their broker. But some brokers will say, hey, we're not covering you. You're not covered on your own deals on our E&O. Have you had any experience with that?
No. And if I did, I would be at the wrong place because that's a trust issue. You're not trusting that I'm doing the right things for the right people, right?
Right.
So this is the solutions-based company where I'm saying I'm not stealing stuff from somebody. I'm not taking properties from people. I'm not putting people in situations where these are willing participants. If the broker has an issue and thinks that because you're investing in, and this is my extrapolation of what you're saying, that if they think that there's a problem with investors trading properties or buying properties, then either they need to be informed of what this actually is because it's a real estate transaction just like any other, or there's not a level of trust that what you're doing is ethically and morally right.
Right.
So,
well, and some people are not as experienced as you, right? Who are looking to join brokerage firms, and maybe the broker, might have reason to be like, well, you don't have enough experience to, maybe I need to look at your deals. Then they might say something like that. The point is, it's all a negotiation with your designated broker. But
yep.
in addition to that, I'll say that a lot of designated brokers don't know what wholesaling is. And, wholesaling is selling a contract position, right?
Yeah.
Technically. So I know you're not wholesaling, so we don't need to go into the details on that, but just something that comes up in general because we do some coaching of a lot of investors, a lot of new people, a lot of every experience level. And that is a topic, a hot topic of conversation. That I'm actually working on a coaching program related to that topic, that niche, because it doesn't get talked about. Some of the things don't get talked about, are very hard when you're both an agent or an investor and a broker. There's a lot of gray areas, right?
Yes. I'll kind of touch on it like this. If I'm a broker, I know you use the word broker if you mean real estate, sales professional, but I'm talking about the broker whose license it is that oversees the entire branch. My interpretation of it is this, and this is basically what real estate salespeople are designed to do. You match buyer with seller and make a commission, right? So there's an interpretation that when you take a contract and you're an educated, sophisticated real estate investor, that you know what values are, and you've put something under contract that you're turning around and assigning to somebody else at a different price. There can be an interpretation that that's going against what your real estate license is actually about, right? Does that make sense? I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm just saying it from their position, this is what it would be. So it would be like...
Yeah, I think that there is a very, very specific way it needs to be done and communicated and if you want to use marketed, I think there's a lot of specifics there, and the majority of people don't do it correctly.
Yes.
That's what I think.
And that's where I think that maybe if you're talking about wholesaling as a component of investment business within a brokerage and you have a license, I could see where brokers would get leery about that. And the only reason I say that is
because they don't understand it. It's not that it's illegal. It's that they themselves don't participate in that, so they have a hard time understanding it. That's why my point on the whole thing is you have to have clear communication and relationships with your designated broker, as you call them brokers and we call them designated brokers. And simply you need to talk it all out with them, right?
Yes.
It's their decision. So,
and if you're going to be a wholesaling professional, it is your duty and obligation to do it at the highest level with the greatest amount of ethics, right?
And there's where the rub is, right? Because there's a lot of people that are not holding up that standard.
That's correct.
That cause problems for the people that are, right?
That's correct, yes.
Yes, we can agree on that. Horizontal business, you've got a traditional brokerage, you've got Gemini Home Solutions. Your traditional brokerage is called the MD Home Team, MD meaning Maryland, right?
That's correct, yep.
The MD Home Team with Keller Williams. The Gemini Home Solutions is your investment company. You are already doing property management, is that correct?
Yeah, on a very small scale. We manage our own and select others, and that's called RentWorks.
RentWorks, excellent. And now you're considering opening your own brokerage?
Yeah, we're in the exploratory phase of it.
Excellent. People always ask me why I don't open my own brokerage, and I simply say it's because I'm too disorganized and lazy. That's to me, that's like, I know I could hire a designated broker to keep me organized, but I just feel that I guess I'm not horizontal enough yet to want to take something like that on, me personally. So I give you a big virtual high five for even attempting to want to do that. That's pretty exciting. So what are you part of a real estate investment network and club down or over in your area? I'll say over.
Yeah. My greatest learning, growing, and giving is all done through mastermind groups. I don't participate in a very direct way with one here local, only because
there you go. Horizontal. Start one. Hey.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying to think of how to put this in the right words. So
you don't have to say it nice.
I want to be what I do in real estate is a national phenomenon with local specifics, right? So I know my market. However, when I can put myself and elevate my game to the best of the best across the country, that's what I'm looking to do. I'm not looking to elevate at this point in time the whole Baltimore market. I'm looking to put myself, I want to be the dumbest person in the smartest room, right?
I like that.
So I want to be in a group of guys, girls, gals, and everything in between that is open, sharing, believes in the laws of abundance. I'm no threat to you. You're in Sacramento, you're in Seattle, I'm in Baltimore. I have no intentions of covering those markets. Let's share and trade information. As an example, a guy in Charleston, South Carolina, who I'm part of a group with, not focused on real estate investing, but something else, said, hey, I want to learn how to flip properties like you. No problem. Here's what you do. This is how you do it. Here, list source, blah, 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 build this list, do that, da, da, da. And I'm teaching him how to do it from the ground up. But he is teaching me about how to potentially grow a brokerage, right? So there's this trade-off where I'm helping improve him and he's helping to improve me. And together, we can both succeed. Iron sharpens iron. That's the way I look at it. So I want to be around the best of the best. So there's a mastermind group. It's not really a mastermind group, but let's just call it that. It's called Go Abundance. And it's basically a group of 100 to 200 guys across the country and into Canada and some other, I guess, parts of the world, where we are, but basically guys focused on health, wealth, wellness, horizontal income, bucket list adventures, so on and so forth, charitable giving, so on and so forth, to where we get together in a national conference. And, I was just down in Florida with a group of 12 of them. And, we have a accountability call with we call them pods, like 5 guys, where we're trying to help each other, become better people and humans, not just how do I flip a house.
Yep. Did you say that was Grow Abundance?
Go Abundance, GOBU. Yeah, Go Abundance. Yeah.
Excellent. I love that. Sounds good. Sounds very good. Just a couple more things here, and then we'll wrap up. What do you think? What's your number one or number two? What are your favorite apps or tools or plugins or software that you use? And what CRM do you use?
We use different CRMs for different business. We'd love to find one solution that fits all, but they have their own inherent difficulties with each. We use Boomtown in our real estate sales team business. It's a best-in-class platform that has a front-facing website and does all of our, PPC and everything else, all our digital advertising. So it's a really good solution for that business. We're using Podio, switching over to InvestorFuse in our house flipping business.
That's the same we use. Same thing.
Cool. You're using the new InvestorFuse?
I'll let Joe pipe in on that. I think we're transitioning over to the new.
We're transitioning. We're still waiting for them to sync up our data right now.
Cool. Welcome back, Joe. I forgot you were there.
I'm here. I'm taking notes, man.
Joe's hiking. He's been hiking about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
You're in good shape. You're not out of breath, so everything's good, right?
Yeah, no problem.
So Boomtown, InvestorFuse, what are your favorite tools and stuff?
Asana we use for project management and tasking. We use it for all of our businesses, and it's our central hub and communication center. It has GLIP attached to it, which is like basically an internal communication tool where, like direct messaging internally within our companies.
We use Slack for that.
Slack, exactly. Slack is a more robust version of GLIP, but it's attached in all in one spot, right?
Yep.
So, but do you know what Asana is?
I've heard of Asana. No, we don't use Asana.
Yeah,
but I know others we know do.
Yeah, it's project management. That's what it's built for. Say like if you were to put together a marketing project and you had somebody in the Philippines and, so forth, and everybody's doing different things, you build timelines and you manage, the actual project start to finish. We adaptively reuse it to manage like our construction projects, to automate tasking, to automate people doing things, to communication and everything in between. Is a really, really powerful tool for us, bringing it all to one central point. Let's see what else app wise. I'm trying to think different businesses for.
You guys drive for dollars at all over there?
No.
Okay.
No, we're about scale and leverage, and not that that's not successful driving for dollars.
That's more of list building, right?
Yeah.
Nick?
Yep.
Right.
Or you may find some, but I know my time is not best spent driving to do that. It's finding the next list source or, finding the next way to advertise or generating different marketing campaigns. Not that someone on our team shouldn't be doing it. We just don't do it.
Yeah.
So shame on us.
Yep. I mean, no, you guys have got a lot on your plate. It seems to be working. Whatever your setup is working for you. I know there's a lot of people that are new on the line, right? And so they're just getting started as well. So as far as, they're picking their discipline, whether that is, in my opinion, even if you're a real estate, you want to just focus on real estate investing. I'm a big, big, big proponent of everybody getting their real estate license. Everybody that knows me knows that, I might as well just wear a sign on my back of my shirt that, says, have you gotten your real estate license yet? I can't believe people don't tackle that yet. They'll pay $25,000 for a real estate guru education and won't bother to get a real estate license, for $1,000 or something. But do you have any real estate mentors or also like guru, for the lack of a better word, that you follow or listen to, or podcasts that you love? What do you read? What do you listen to?
I read, I think you have to be a well-rounded person, and there's stuff that you translate, from one thing to another. Here's something that someone does that taught me that's pretty powerful. There's a guy named Jeff Hoffman who started, I think it was Priceline or one of those, I always screw it up. He'll probably, if I run into him again, and he ever listens to podcasts, he'll probably kick me. But it's like Priceline or one of those kind of online. No, it's Travelocity or something like that. And he does this thing called info sponging. And what he does is on purpose, he spends, say, 15 minutes every morning learning about something new. And what he does is he picks out topics, and it could be why the sand in Bermuda is pink, right? Just making up something abstractly. But he's learning and he's training his brain to think about other things. And what happens is you'll see something in a different industry that will connect and click. Hey, I can do that in mine.
Right.
And the example he gave was the hamburger stands used to, sell hamburgers. You drove up, you parked your car, you got out, you grabbed the bag. Well, somewhere along the way, the guy that decided to do the first drive-through saw that it was working at, I think it was a bank or bank teller or something like that. I forget whatever the industry was. And he goes, hey, I can marry that with that. And it's the same idea that when you're info sponging and you're looking for, just learning and the growth, ideas pop out that you can interconnect into your businesses. So one of the book I'm reading right now, I'm rereading, believe it or not, is Rich Dad Poor Dad. And the core principles are there for me, from the beginning inherently, and learned and growth and all that stuff. But it's always good to refresh it. Like literally, I was on a plane back from Denver yesterday, reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. So.
So Joe, there you go. There's our book for the next giveaway.
All right, I'm on it.
What we do is after every podcast, we have a once a month investment club meeting at Seattle Investors Club. And what we've started doing is we always talk on these podcasts about what people read, or sometimes we're even interviewing authors themselves, such as, I don't know if you've read the book Profit First. Have you read that one?
It's in my queue. I literally have it in my bag. It's one of the next ones I'm reading. So,
holy smokes, you're gonna love it.
Yeah,
you're gonna love it. But we've had what did he like to call himself? Something Mike the Mechanic, or what did we call him, Joe?
Mike Motorbike.
Mike Motorbike. Mike, if you're listening, I won't try to pronounce your last name because it's like Mjalowicz, something like that.
Michalowicz, I think.
Yeah, you're gonna love it. And from an accounting point of view, Josh, you're gonna be like, holy crap, I'm gonna do this right now.
Yeah,
it is so awesome. So cool. Shout out to Mike. But we like to give away books. So Mike was on, we gave away his book. Everybody tells us their favorite book. So if all you Seattle Investors Club members who are listening, Rich Dad Poor Dad is up.
Can I make a suggestion? And
sure.
I don't mean to interrupt you. We have everybody in our company who joins us, whether a salesperson or it could be a janitor. It doesn't matter. We have them read the book, and it's called Go Giver, Gogiver. And the book is basically a fable tale. It's 130 pages, super easy read. It's told through the eyes of a guy who is learning these, what they call the 5 laws of stratospheric success. And he goes to a different guy and learns a different piece of it. But it ties into, especially if you have wholesalers and people and the ethics and all the stuff that I was talking about and the win-wins and all that stuff. The first law is the law of value. That's basically your true worth is determined by how much you give in value than you take in payment. The second law, the law of compensation. Your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well you serve them. The third law, the law of influence. Your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. And the fourth one is the law of authenticity. The most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself. And then most importantly, the law of receptivity.
I feel like I've just been blessed or something like that. That's good stuff.
Yeah, the law of receptivity. The key to effective giving is to stay open to receiving. So if somebody says, gives you a compliment, I'm a fairly humble person. Humble people usually don't say that, but you don't know me, so I'm just trying to paint the picture. But I have a hard time when people, give me a compliment. Okay, and kind of go on. But what that does to someone else is I'm not accepting it from them by doing that. So I now make a point to say, thank you so much. That means so much to me. And I truly mean it. It's just more, I try and deflect it and defer from it. Just as I don't really want to talk about me, although here I am talking about me on a podcast. So here I am kind of contradicting myself. But it does wonders for organizations, people, situations. It's such a powerful book. We had a sales girl that we hired not long ago, and we gave it to her because we give it to everybody. We don't force them to read it. They're not required to read it, but literally within a week, she was posting on Facebook, my God, this book's changed my life, that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
And
I
I'm
can't
just
wait to
replying
get
back
it.
like, hey, you're welcome, and it's easy. It's super. It's just core fundamental values. It's the village mindset, right? So it's just giving. It's go giver. And look, I got this. I met with a hard money lender and had lunch. This is a really cool. This is another little tip you can do to either impress people, and I don't think that's the right reason to do it, or to truly give. So I had lunch with him. We still to this day have not done business together. His rates are a little bit out of where we are, and so fundamentally we don't mesh together. He wants 15 and 4, and we don't need to borrow that type of money. So, but what he did was he mailed me a copy of this book, and it, with an inscription inside said, hey, you know what? Your mindset's here. I think you'll enjoy this. Let me know. So I now pay it forward much the way he paid it forward to me by telling people who want to know, what, this is about. And, he was able to give me something and just gave it, didn't ask for anything in return. We talk from time to time, but there's no business that we're doing together. But now I've taken that book and given it to our team, our companies in the world really now.
Sounds good. I can't wait to grab it myself. We can bring that and share it with the club and let everybody know that we heard it from you, of course. But that sounds very good to me. Good stuff today. Good stuff today, Josh. So I'm just going to leave it there and maybe just say, what are your 2019 goals or your long-term goals? Why you doing all this? And, what do you want to do for yourself so we can watch and, witness you do those things now that we've gotten to know you?
That's a great question. So my why is crystal clear. My why is freedom. So I truly don't care about money in the sense that people generally care about it. I need it to do the things I want to do when I want to do it and how I want to do it. And I need enough of it to decide when I don't need to have earned income anymore. And my horizontal income, kind of pays and it creates lifestyle. So really my 10-year plan is to be at a point somewhere within the next 10 years, at a point where I get to choose what I do, when I do it, and how I do it. Right. So if it means I never work again, so be it. It means I choose on projects I'm passionate about. Great. But crystal clear that freedom is what I'm after. I got 3 kids. Love them dearly. 13 years old, 10 years old, and 5 years old. I have a fantastic wife. I have good people in my life. I have good businesses. I want to be able to make sure that I choose to use my most precious commodity, which is time, how I want to do it and don't really have to report for duty. And that's really, I know I'll be a success. So if you see me and you say, hey, you're working, and I said, not this year, you'll know that I've hit my goal.
I love it. And since you're my twin, maybe we'll be talking when we're having a margarita, wherever we're at, having this conversation, right?
Sounds good. Please come out to Maryland. It's a great state. You'll love it out here.
I'd love to. And vice versa. If you come out to the Seattle area, we'd certainly like to show you the town and provide some hospitality, no doubt, over here. Now, I guess that's it for us today. We've gone pretty long because it's just a nice, easygoing conversation with a great guy, right? Look who wins. The nice guys win. And today we've talked to a really nice guy, Josh Mente, out of Baltimore, Maryland, with Gemini Home Solutions and the MD Home team at Keller Williams. So thanks, Josh. Joe, we're going to link up to all the things that Josh mentioned, maybe Boomtown, of course, maybe Investor Fuse and the books, and maybe you can find the Go Abundance. Maybe there's something like that. Where can everybody find all the good info, Joe?
Yep, I've been taking notes on all of it. Show notes should be good to go when you guys hear this podcast. You can get to them at seattleinvestorsclub.com/54. That's seattleinvestorsclub.com/54.
Excellent.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today. And I think we're going to be maybe even talking to your friend Patrick too as well, right?
Awesome.
Yeah, so small world. Everybody's connected one way or another. I think Eric B. is part of this mix, isn't he, Joe?
Oh, yeah. Eric's always part of the mix.
Oh, Eric's always part of the mix. So shout out to Eric and all our friends out out there in podcast land, and we will see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Seattle Investors Club podcast. If you have questions that you'd like to have answered on the show, shoot us an email at info@seattleinvestorsclub.com. Now go out, take that action, and build that real estate business. Thanks for listening.